Welcome children. Take up the Real English book, part 6, chapter 4, the story of river Ganga. The Ganga is considered a holy river by Hindus. People released in the Ganga whose ashes of their beloved ones who die so their souls attain salvation. Now, Ganga. According to Hindu mythology, Ganga is the holy river. Now, people releases in the Ganga the ashes of the dead bodies of their beloved ones. Now, so that their soul could attain salvation. Salvation means free from the cycle of death and birth. Today, the river has become a cause of environmental concern because of the increasing pollution. Now, in today's world, River Ganga, it has become a cause of the environmental pollution because day by day the pollution is increasing. This is a story of a little boy who wanted to find out why the Ganga is considered holy. Now, this story tells us about a little boy who wanted to know why Ganga is considered as a holy river by the Hindus. Ishan and his grandmother were sitting and talking about Indian culture. Now, Ishan is a little boy and his grandmother. Both were sitting and they were talking about the Indian culture. Ishan suddenly remembered seeing in a TV program a lot of people praying near the ghats of the Ganga and releasing the ashes in the river. Now, suddenly, Ishan reminded that and in the TV program, he has seen lots of people, they prays near the Ganga ghats and then releases the ashes in the river. He also recalled that the river was very dirty. He even said the river was very dirty. He wanted to find out about it and asked his grandmother, why do people pray on the banks of the river Ganga and throw ashes into it? Now, he asked his grandmother that why people pray on the banks of the river Ganga and then throw the ashes into the water. Grandmother replied, Ganga is a holy river and people release the ashes of their dead kin in it. Now, grandmother, what she replied? She replied that Ganga, it is a holy river and people, they release the ashes of their nearer and dearest one in it, so that their souls may find salvation, so that their soul may get salvation. That is, they get free of the cycle of death and birth. I remember mother saying that salvation is the rest of the soul after death, added Ishan. Now, as Ishan said that, but I have remembered that mother has said that salvation, it means it is the rest of the soul after the death, added Ishan, said Ishan. According to the legends, the Ganga was in heaven but was brought down to the earth. Now, grandmother started saying that according to legend, Ganga, it was only in heaven, but this Ganga river, it was brought down to the earth. And this made it a holy, and for this reason, it became a holy river. Long ago, there lived a king, Sagara, in Ayodhya, who had 2 wives. Now, many years ago, there lived in Ayodhya a king named Sagara. He had 2 wives. Was his first wife, and they had a son, Asamanjas. Now, from his first wife, the king had a son whose name was Asamanjas, but he was very cruel. And what type he was very cruel. However, Keshini's grandson Anshuman was kind and brave. But Keshini's grandson Anshuman, he was very kind and brave, said grandmother. Grandmother said, Sumati was the second wife. Now, Sumati, who was she? She was the second wife of King Sagara. And she had 60,000 sons. How many sons Sumati had? Sumati had 60,000 sons. But they were very proud and were not liked by the people, continued the grandmother. Now, grandmother again continued that these 60,000 sons, they were too much proud and so people didn't like them. King Sagara became very strong and powerful. Now, King Sagara, he became too strong and even too powerful. He had a huge empire and very big empire he had to control. But he wanted to establish a boundary of his empire and tell people. But what he wanted? King wanted that he would establish a boundary of his empire and then he would tell his people about who was the king of the land. Then what he would do? He would tell king, he would tell his people who was the king of the land, so that they would not be confused, so that they couldn't get confused. To this day, King Sagara performed the Ashwamedha Yajna. Now one day what happened? King Sagara, he performed the Ashwamedha Yajna. What is this Ashwamedha Yajna? It is a yajna in which horse is sacrificed. Horse is beautifully decorated. The yajna is performed, and after the horse is set free, and at the end of the sacrifice, the horse is sacrificed. He selected a good horse from his stables and let him trot wherever he wanted to go. Now, king selected a good horse from his stable, then allowed the horse to wander wherever the horse wanted to go. Interested, Ishan asked, what would happen if someone stopped the horse? Now, Ishan, he was very interested in listening the story. He asked that what would happen if someone tried to stop the horse. Stopping the horse meant challenging the king's authority and the fight to start. Now grandmother replied that if anyone stopping the horse, what does it mean? It means challenging the king's authority, and what will happen? They will have to fight. They will have to start a fight. But anyone who let the horse pass would be protected by the king. But if anyone let the horse pass, then that kingdom will be protected by the king. However, the gods were unhappy with the 60,000 sons of King Sagara. But God, he was very much unhappy. Gods were very much unhappy with the 60,000 sons of King Sagara, and as they were very cruel, because all his sons were too cruel, the gods felt that the world would be a better place without them. The gods felt that if these sons were not present on the earth, then it would be a better place on the earth. So, Indra, the king of gods, came down to the earth. Now, for this reason, Indra, who was the king of gods, he came down to the earth disguised as a demon. And what he disguised himself? He disguised himself as a demon. He stole the horse and hid it, said grandmother. Grandmother said that Indra, what he did? He stole the horse and then hid it. Ishan asked, but if Indra stole the horse, how could King Sagara establish his power? Now, Ishan asked that if Indra had stolen, God Indra had stolen the horse, then how could King Sagara establish his power? Very good, Ishan. Now, and Mother Patel saying, very good, Ishan. The king was very upset. And Mother started narrating that the king, he felt very upset. He called the 60,000 sons to go and find the horse. Now the king called his 60,000 sons and told them to go and find the horse. They looked far and wide but could not find the horse. Now the king's sons, they searched far and wide but still couldn't find the horse. Finally, they came across a wise man, Kapila Muni. Finally, what happened? At the end, what happened? They came across a wise man. His name was Kapila Muni. Deep in meditation. Where is he? He was in deep meditation. The horse stood near him, and the horse was standing near him. The 60,000 sons did not know that Kapila Muni was a sage, and they thought they found the thief. Now, the horse also was near Kapila Muni, and this 60,000 sons, they didn't know that Kapila Muni, who was he? He was a son, and they thought that Kapila Muni, he was only the thief. The sons ran shouting towards the sage. He was suddenly disturbed from his prayer. Now what happened? The sons, all the 60,000 sons ran shouting towards the sage, and hearing the shout, the Muni got disturbed and suddenly disturbed from his prayer. Kapila Muni opened his eyes and glared at them. Kapila Muni, what happened when he got disturbed? He opened his eyes and looked at them. All the 60,000 sons turned into ashes, continued the grandmother. Now when grandmother said that when Kapila Muni opened his eyes, what happened? All the 60,000 sons, they all turned into ashes. Ishan continued, oh, what happened then? Now Ishan asked, oh, after that what happened? But what has that to do with the river Ganga? And what has that to do with the river Ganga? Well, when King Sagara did not hear from his many sons, he was worried. Now, what happened? King Shagara, he didn't hear anything from his son for many days. He became too much worried. He sent his grandson Anshuman to find out. Now he sent his grandson Anshuman to find out. Anshuman, being brave, finally found the horse. Anshuman, he was very brave and finally found the horse, but was puzzled by the 60,000 heaps of ashes. But he was very much surprised by seeing the 60,000 heaps of ashes. Then the king of birds, Garuda, told Anshuman to take away the horse to finish the yajna. Then the king of birds is Garuda. King of birds told Anshuman to take away the horse to finish the yajna. He also told Anshuman about what happened to his uncle. He even told Anshuman that what happened to his uncle. Upset Anshuman asked Garuda what could he do about it. Now Anshuman, he became very much upset and he asked Garuda that what could he do about it. So Garuda told Anshuman that to send the souls of his uncle to heaven. Now Garuda told Anshuman to send the souls of his uncle to heaven. The ashes must be washed in the Ganga. Now say that to heaven, how the ashes will be, if the ashes get merged in the Ganga, they will get washed away. But the Ganga was in heaven. But Ganga, it was not in the earth, it was in heaven, and it had to be brought down to the earth first. First Ganga, it needs to be brought down to the earth. The yajna was finished, but neither King Sagara nor King Anshuman or King Dilip, who became the next king, could find a way to bring the Ganga down. Now said the grandmother. Now grandmother said that now yajna, what happened after few days, yajna finished, but no one, that is neither king nor King Anshuman, neither King Sagara nor King Anshuman nor King Dilip, who could become the next king, could find a way that how could they bring the Ganga down to the earth. Then what happened? What happened, grandmother? Asked Jishan. Now Jishan asks, then after that what happened, grandmother? The next king, Bhagiratha, was a brave king. Now the next king was Bhagiratha. He was a very brave king, but he had no sons who could become the next king. But Bhagiratha had no son, that after Bhagiratha who would become the next king. And he was also troubled by the unfinished tasks of the ashes. And he was also very much troubled by this unfinished tasks of the ashes. He left his kingdom to his minister and went to the Himalayas and to pray and do penance. So what he did, he left all his kingdom to the ministers, and then went to the Himalayas to pray and to do penance. Now what is penance? It is a religious act one performed to ask for forgiveness from their God. Now as these 60 brothers were too cruel, and for this reason Bhagiratha wanted to give salvation to them, and for this reason he had to do penance, and for this reason he went to the Himalaya. Brahma was very pleased by Bhagiratha's devotion. Now as Bhagiratha's devotion was too deep, so God Brahma became very much pleased. Upon hearing his trouble, Brahma granted him both the wishes. Now on hearing his trouble, God Brahma granted him both the wishes. But he added that the earth was not strong enough to bear the flow of Ganga. But what he did means Brahma said that, but earth, it was not too strong to bear the flow of Ganga. So Bhagirath must ask for the help of Shiva. So it is very much needed for Bhagirath that he seeks to need the help of Lord Shiva. The grandmother continued. Now again the grandmother. Then Bhagiratha prayed to Shiva. Now Bhagiratha, what he did? He prayed to Shiva. Shiva was very pleased. Now Lord Shiva, he also became very much pleased. He promised to help Bhagiratha. He also promised to Bhagiratha. However, Ganga was very proud as she was the favorite of the god. However, now River Ganga, she was also very much proud because she was the favorite of the god. She thought that she would sweep away even Shiva by her force. She thought that she can even sweep away Lord Shiva by her force. Ganga. Ganga with all her force fell on the Shiva's with all force fell on Shiva's head. Ganga, what happened? With all force fell on Shiva's head. Shiva knew of Ganga's pride, and Lord Shiva, she knew that Ganga, how much pride was Ganga. To reach To teach Ganga a lesson, Shiva stopped her flow by his matted hair. Now, to teach a lesson to Ganga, Shiva stopped the flow by his matted hair. Now, what is this matted hair? Matted hair is forming a thick mass, which forms a thick mass. Coming towards the end of the story, the grandmother. Now it was the end of the story. In the end of the story, grandmother said, Bhagirath was troubled and he started praying once again. Bhagirath, he was becoming too much troubling, and so he once again started praying. Please, Shiva, allow the Ganga to flow gently. Now he again said to Shiva that please, Shiva, allow the Ganga to flow gently. The waters of the Ganga are divided into 7 streams. Now this water of the Ganga, got divided into 7 streams. 3 flowed to the east and 3 to the west. Now 3, it flows towards the east and 3 towards the west. 1 stream flowed to the chariot of Bhagiratha. 1 stream, it flows towards the chariot of Bhagiratha. The stream that flowed Bhagiratha was so beautiful that all the goddesses assembled to see it. Now, stream which flowed through Bhagiratha, it was so beautiful that all the gods, they came together to see it. Bhagiratha then performed the holy rites for his 60,000 ancestors. Now, Bhagiratha, he performed all the holy rites which were meant for his 60,000 ancestors. Their souls could finally go to heaven, and at last, all the souls were finally able to reach the heaven. Delighted Ishan said aloud, so because the Ganga came down from heaven, it is believed to be heaven. Now, Ishan was very much happy. He shouted aloud that, and for this reason, Ganga came down from heaven, and so this reason, it is believed that Ganga is holy. But Ishan still looked puzzled and asked his grandmother. Still, Ishan, he was looking very much puzzled, and he asked his grandmother, if the Ganga is holy, then why do people make it so polluted? Now again Ishan asked his grandmother that if this Ganga is so holy, then why people make it so polluted? Should it not be kept clean? Should it not? Is it not that the Ganga should be kept clean? Smiling a little, grandmother said, Ishan, that is a very good question. Now grandmother smiled a little and then said, Ishan, is a very good question. Why don't you ask this question to your classmates and find out? You could ask this question to your classmate and then find out. And now revise this lesson again, write in your diary, revise lesson 4, that is the story of the Ganga. And now I am ending my today's class. Goodbye.